Thank you. Mr. Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I'm honored to be here today to present two country reports on my visit to Lesotho and the United States, and one thematic report marking 10 years since the establishment of the mandate on albinism. As mandated by the Council, I visited Lesotho in April 2024 and the United States in October 2024. My visit to Lesotho was undertaken in unique circumstances, given that the government extended to me an expedited invitation and support to facilitate the visit, even without a request. I commend this unprecedented action as good practice, which other member states could replicate as a way of strengthening engagement with the mandate. In the report I present to you on my visit to Lesotho, I recognize and commend the government for introducing positive initiatives that help strengthen human rights protection for persons with albinism, including the signing of the African Protocol on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, adoption of the National Strategic Development Plan, and the National Social Protection Strategy. These positive initiatives could pave the way for the alignment of government policies and initiatives beneficial to those with albinism in the country. However, there are persisting challenges in the country that require the attention of the government. Of particular concern, and one that is a common challenge in many countries, is the absence of disaggregated data on albinism, making it challenging to undertake an informed, rights-based assessment of the impact of laws and policies on persons with albinism. In my interaction with member states, I have consistently highlighted the importance of such disaggregated data to ensure programmatic and legislative interventions. My report further raises concerns over apparent inadequate access to healthcare services and products for persons with albinism. The risk of skin cancer is extremely high for those with albinism, and the lack of access to sunscreen, protective gear, as well as skin cancer screening and treatment can lead to foreseeable yet preventable deaths. Skin cancer is the primary cause of death for persons with albinism in Southern Africa region, rendering sunscreen an essential medicine, not a cosmetic. Furthermore, lack of access to visual aids, including spectacles, can seriously limit their quality of life. Other concerns I highlight in the report include experiences of stigmatization and discrimination, particularly microaggressions, mostly due to ignorance about albinism or due to false beliefs about the condition, barriers to education and employment, as well as the vulnerability and invisibility experienced by persons with albinism in remote rural areas. Mr. Vice President, my visit to the United States last October occurred during a period of heightened political activity due to elections. This presented some challenges in relation to organizing some of the desired meetings with elected officials at the congressional and state levels. The visit was motivated by two factors. First, the diversity of population of persons with albinism in the country, and secondly, the high prevalence of rare form of albinism known as Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, HPS, particularly in Puerto Rico. I was encouraged by the level of protection in legislative and policy frameworks, making it possible for progressive realization of human rights for persons with albinism in the country. A major contributor to this has been the Americans with Disabilities Act. The Act has been especially impactful in the areas of employment, education, health, and transport, including through requiring federal and state institutions to provide support and to ensure access to reasonable accommodations and assistive devices. As mentioned, the visit also provided an opportunity to uncover the specific challenges of those with Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome. Based on existing records, Puerto Rico has the highest prevalence of persons with HPS in the world, with an estimated prevalence rate of 1 in 1,800, with 1 in 22 persons being carriers of one of the genes. In addition to a lack of melanin and visual impairment, persons with HPS have a platelet dysfunction leading to prolonged bleeding. Those with certain types of HPS are also known to develop pulmonary fibrosis, eventually requiring a double lung transplant. They may also have inflammatory bowel and kidney disease. I am encouraged that the authorities in Puerto Rico promulgated Law Number 109 of 2022 on persons with albinism and Hermansky-Pudlak. The law, among other things, seeks to ensure that persons with albinism, including those with HPS, have access to necessary services and special doctors, as well as drugs and treatments. However, implementation of the law has been impacted by bureaucracy and a liquidity and governance crisis in Puerto Rico. My assessment is that despite the relative expansive legal and policy architecture that protects persons with albinism in the United States, additional measures and resources need to be put in place to ensure the provisions of essential services. I hope that the commitment of the federal authorities to develop a data collection system on albinism, including rarer forms of albinism such as Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome and Shiitake-Higashi syndrome, with information disaggregated by state, gender, age, and other factors, as well as to ensure reasonable accommodation for those with albinism, will be maintained. Mr. Vice President, my third report focuses on the 10th anniversary of my mandate, which marks a critical moment for an assessment of progress made in advancing the rights of persons with albinism by the mandate holder and other actors globally. Through the support of member states and civil society actors, the mandate has played a central role in mainstreaming the rights of persons with albinism, contributing to increased recognition of their rights at the global, regional, and national level. This has included framing of attacks against persons with albinism as forms of torture and trafficking, as well as highlighting how discrimination against them is multiple and intersectional on the basis of disability and color, and sometimes age and gender. Significant progress has been made in advancing the human rights of persons with albinism. This has included albinism-specific laws, national action plans, addition of sunscreen to national essential drug lists, as well as some prosecutions for attacks. However, much more needs to be done to address the ongoing challenges and concerns. This requires states to enhance their engagement with the mandate and other relevant stakeholders, as well as implement already existing recommendations. In particular, there are persisting challenges experienced by persons with albinism in relation to education, healthcare, and employment, where systematic barriers continue to impede the enjoyment of those rights. I have proposed important recommendations for member states and other stakeholders to assist in realization of the rights of persons with albinism, including the need for continued engagement by states, United Nations entities on albinism issues in Africa and beyond, proactive engagement with the mandate through invitations for country visits, making timely submissions to call for inputs, and responding to communications. As I have said numerous times before, in all the fora that I engage in, the inclusion of persons with albinism in discussions and initiatives affecting them is paramount. I look forward to working with as many of you as possible in addressing the grave challenges that I have outlined for persons with albinism in the 3 reports being presented here today. I thank you all for your attention.